Welcome back to Mad Hatter's Civil War History. In today's episode, we examine the 99th Pennsylvania Infantry. In the heart of the Civil War, when the Union trembled and the fate of a nation hung in the balance, one regiment stood tall, fighting not just for victory, but for home. From the blood-soaked fields of Bull Run to the rocky slopes of Gettysburg, the 99th Pennsylvania Infantry charged forward, undaunted, unbroken. At Gettysburg, they shouted, "This is Pennsylvania, and our home," and held the line with fierce determination. Led by heroes like Color Sergeant Harvey Munel, they carried the flag through 13 battles, never backing down. They didn't fight for fame, they fought for freedom. Honor their legacy. Remember their story. The 99th Pennsylvania Infantry. Courage forged in fire. The 99th Pennsylvania Infantry Regiment was originally organized as the 32nd Pennsylvania Infantry in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania between July 26, 1861 and January 18, 1862. It was later redesignated as the 99th Pennsylvania in February of 1862 to avoid confusion with another unit also known as the 32nd Pennsylvania Infantry. The regiment was primarily raised in Philadelphia, but it also attracted volunteers from surrounding counties in southeastern Pennsylvania. The regiment was mustered into service under the command of Colonel Thomas Sweeney, who played a central role in organizing and leading the unit during its early months. Their first major combat experience came during Union General John Pope's campaign in Northern Virginia in late summer of 1862. At the Battle of Grovetown, fought on August 29, 1862, the 19th was part of the Union forces engaging Confederate troops under Stonewall Jackson. Prior to the battle, they had been charged with performing defensive duties around Washington, D.C. At Grovetown, the regiment was engaged in intense skirmishing and line-of-battle fighting as Union forces attempted to dislodge Confederate troops under Stonewall Jackson, who had taken a strong position near the old Manassas battlefield. The Battle of Grovetown was a prelude to the larger Second Battle of Bull Run the following day. The 99th's actions helped delay Confederate advances and provided critical resistance during the Union's attempt to regroup and assess enemy strength. Following Grovetown, the regiment continued fighting in the Second Battle of Bull Run on August 30th, and then the Battle of Chantilly on September 1st, enduring heavy combat in a series of engagements that marked their baptism by fire in major field operations. During the Battle of Fredericksburg, the regiment participated in the ill-fated frontal assault against Confederate positions. The battle was marked by high Union casualties and demonstrated the brutal nature of Civil War combat. Then came Chancellorsville. Despite being outnumbered by Lee's forces, the 99th held its ground during this chaotic and costly battle, holding the enemy at bay long enough to allow for the eventual retreat of Union forces and eliminate the threat of a rout. At the Battle of Gettysburg, the 99th Pennsylvania Infantry was assigned to the 3rd Brigade, 1st Division of the 3rd Corps, and was commanded by Major John W. Moore. The regiment entered the battle with approximately 339 men. Over the course of the 3-day engagement, they suffered 18 killed, 81 wounded, and 11 missing. On the first day, July 1st, 1863, the 99th was not engaged in combat. Like much of the 3rd Corps, they arrived late in the day and bivouacked south of the town. Their position was near the southern end of Cemetery Ridge, preparing for what would become a pivotal role on the second day. July 2nd was the regiment's most intense day of combat, and where they earned their place in Gettysburg history. The 99th was ordered forward as part of General Dan Sickles' controversial advance to a salient position along the Emmitsburg Road. They were placed near Houck's Ridge, just above Devil's Den, a rocky outcropping that would become one of the bloodiest sites of the battle. The regiment engaged in fierce fighting against Confederate forces under General John Bell Hood. During the Confederate assault, the 99th was involved in a dramatic bayonet charge to repel attackers near Devil's Den. According to eyewitness accounts, including Corporal Peter Ears of Company E, the men shouted, "This is Pennsylvania and our home," as they charged into the fray. The bayonet charge and the regiment's stubborn defense of their position were considered acts of great bravery. Despite being outflanked and under heavy fire, the 99th held their ground longer than many neighboring units, contributing to the eventual stabilization of the Union left flank. On the third day, the 99th was repositioned to support the Union center during Pickett's charge. While they were not in the direct path of the Confederate assault, they were under heavy artillery fire and remained in reserve, ready to reinforce any breach in the line. The 99th Pennsylvania's stand at Devil's Den was later commemorated with a monument in Houck's Ridge, dedicated in 1889. Their actions on July 2nd are remembered as a textbook example of regimental bravery and tactical resilience under extreme pressure. Even though as a unit the 99th proved its courage during the heat of battle, one soldier stood head and shoulders above the rest. Harvey May Munel was a slight, determined young man, barely 100 pounds, who overcame repeated rejections due to his size before finally enlisting in Philadelphia with the 99th Pennsylvania Infantry. His dedication and courage quickly earned him the role of color bearer, a position of immense symbolic and tactical importance on the battlefield. At Gettysburg, deep in the heart of the action, on the second day of the battle, the 99th Pennsylvania was heavily engaged near Devil's Den, one of the most fiercely contested areas on the Union left flank. As color-bearer, Munel carried the regiment's flag into the thick of the fighting, a role that made him a prime target for enemy fire, but also a rallying point for his comrades. During the chaos of the Confederate assault, Muncie misunderstood an order to fall back and found himself isolated and exposed to intense enemy fire. A Confederate artillery shell exploded nearby, knocking him to the ground. He fell into a crater left by a previous explosion and remained there, pinned down, until Union reinforcements from the Sixth Corps pushed back the Confederate advance. Despite the danger, Munel refused to abandon the colors. His bravery under fire and refusal to retreat without orders became a source of inspiration for the men of the 99th. His actions were later praised by Major John W. Moore, the regiment's commander, who described them as worthy of the most decided approval. General J. H. Hobart Ward also commended Munel's conduct in a report to the Secretary of War. For his gallantry at Gettysburg and throughout 13 engagements during the war, Munel was awarded the Medal of Honor. His citation specifically honors his extraordinary heroism from July 1st through the 3rd, 1863, while serving with Company A of the 99th Pennsylvania. The 99th Pennsylvania Infantry concluded its service in the Union Army on July 1st, 1865, after nearly 4 years of continuous and often intense combat during the war. In its final months, the 99th participated in the Appomattox Campaign, including the Battle of Fort Stedman, the Battle of Sailor's Creek, and the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse, where General Robert E. Lee finally surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia on April 9, 1865. Following the Confederate surrender, the regiment remained on duty until it was officially mustered out of service on July 1, 1865. The regiment left behind a legacy of bravery, particularly noted for its actions at Gettysburg, Fredericksburg, and throughout the Overland and Petersburg campaigns. Over the course of the war, the 99th Pennsylvania suffered the loss of 9 officers and 113 enlisted men, killed or mortally wounded, while 1 officer and 112 enlisted men died of disease. Thanks for watching this episode of Mad Hatter's Civil War History. Like, follow, and click the bell for notifications to ensure you see all of the latest content. As always, let me know if there's any other important events of the American Civil War you would like me to address.